Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 5, Compromised. Really enjoyed this episode. You know, we got the characters going off to the 80s, and I think we got some really great stuff with Amara from this, where they basically kind of settled into the fact that she's not going back to 1942. Like, especially with the way it played out, they made it seem like that's how it was meant to be, because, like I said, they do that in the show all the time, where it's like everything they do is basically how everything was meant to be. So it seems like Amara is officially going to be outside of the 40s, although it's hard to say because she is supposed to be. I read this recently. I didn't know this. I just thought she just happened to have the amulet. But I read that she was actually supposed to be Mari's grandmother, like the current day Vixen. She's actually her grandmother. I thought it's easy that she could just be a part of her family, because if she went back to 1942, they could easily make that happen, because I'm assuming at some point, somehow, they are going to actually end up saving Rex. So it's hard to say exactly how the season's going to end, if she will end up going back to the 40s or whatever. But I was thinking it's really possible that they could, anything could happen. She could just pass it off to somebody else, and then that person ends up having Mari, later on, or it just ends up getting lost or whatever. Because if you watch the Vixen animated series on the CWC thing, they explain that Mari was born in Africa, so it's like, well, something has to happen here for this stuff to make sense for her to actually be her grandmother. She literally does have to go back to a certain point in time, and she doesn't necessarily have to go to a specific location, but I would assume that she does. But I like what they did with her. They also seem to be hinting at a possible relationship between her and Steele, whose name Nate is his name. So they seem to be hinting at that, because they had I don't even remember her partner's name, whatever the guy's name was, who was like the Black Smoke. I want to say Obsidian was the name, but that may have been a different character. So they kind of hint at that towards the end of the episode, and she's upset over a lot of different things, like not only losing her friends, but also losing Rex Tyler, because we find out that they were actually in a relationship together, and their plan was to leave, and then of course he gets killed, and that's kind of why she just took off. Like, that's why she wasn't really thinking, because it was emotion based, and she just jumps on the ship and starts slamming people's heads and everything, and knocking them all out. So I like that explanation. We find out that they were together, and that's why she's so against actually being super close to the rest of the team, because she doesn't think that that's a good idea, because she knows what it's like when that goes wrong. So I thought there were some great elements with her, and seeing the defunct training base of the JSA and stuff like that, I was like, this is actually very cool. So I like the way all that stuff played out. I really enjoyed her storyline in this episode, and like I said, they seem to be hinting at something between her and Nate. I don't know if I don't have anything against it, I don't really care, but they seem like they always it always seems a little bit forced to me, where it's like they have to have some relationship somewhere in the group to me, and I'm like, they could just easily be teams, but at the same time, you have a bunch of random people, they could also easily be, paired off. But it just seems like they always do that, and it's like, let's just pair somebody off. Like, it just has to be someone in a relationship with someone else on the team. So it seemed like a pretty big hint, especially when the guy's leaving. And this show is all about, like, just breaking all sorts of barriers. It was like she was with, it was like an interracial relationship in the 40s, and then her partner, he's like, we find out that he's gay at the end of the episode. This show's like just all about like breaking relationship and racial and interracial barriers and stuff like that. So that was really cool. I like that they did that. But when he's leaving, he's like, if you they do this a lot on TV, but it's like, if you happen to find that love or whatever, you should embrace it. And then of course Nate kind of comes right around the corner after he says it. I'm like, oh, that's that sort of foreshadowing there. So I don't mind it in any way, shape, or form, and it might be a bit more logical to do this relationship than some others, because she's this person that has an insanely good connection to Nate's grandfather, or she did at least, and that would be a reason for him to want to be around her so much, and then it becomes about more than just, oh, you tell me stories about my grandfather that make me feel a lot better. We get to know more about each other as well, because it can't just all be she's telling them stories all the time. So, it makes a lot of sense. They'd spend a ton of time together, because if anyone had that opportunity, they would easily do that, especially if they never knew that person, if they knew someone was like, you spent years with this person and you could tell me stories that even my father never knew, you're going to spend a ton of time with that person if you get the chance. So it makes a lot of sense that it could easily build from that. So, it could easily work out, and it's a very gradual thing, which I think it could be. I don't know how long this season's going to be, but I think it could work. I think it would be a nice, simple, gradual sort of situation with them actually ending up in a relationship, or at least considering it, like kind of just openly talking about it at least by the end of the season or something. But I like what they did there. Sarah had some good stuff too. When we find out Damien Darhk is the villain for the episode, or one of them, Sarah was pretty awesome in this. She freaks out in the beginning, which kind of ruins the mission, and then I, I, she may have ruined a lot of stuff by the end of the episode, where she's like, I'm gonna let you live because I know about your plan, and she's getting into specifics, and it's like the arc, and he's like, what? How do you know about that? And she's like, you're almost there, but it fails, and your wife dies, and you get so close to losing that you threaten to kill your own daughter. And I'm like, she's dropping like an insane amount of knowledge. Like, no one in their right mind, if someone's a time traveler, like he didn't know that they were time travelers until he kind of talked more with Dawn. But I just love the way that it played out. I was like, I don't think that that's a good idea that she's telling them all this stuff, but it certainly has me excited for where they're taking the series now, because the way they ended, Thawne, he's like, he decides, like, I've defined our relationship, our partnership in these specific terms. Here's a time machine. So they jump and they travel through time, so who knows where the heck they're going to end up at. And Damien Darhk, now knowing his future, his whole thing was like, take me with you through time because I want to change my fate. So I don't know how the heck this is supposed to play out, but I am incredibly excited for it, because I was like, I never expected it to be like that. I knew they'd have to do some stuff with Thawne, but I didn't think it would be like, he's like, here's a time machine, let's do our thing together and jump through time. I didn't think it would really be that way, so I'm super excited. They found out that it's a speedster now, so that's cool. We kind of got our promo now for what's going to be happening with this Big Four series crossover, although we find out it's versus aliens, so I don't actually think it would have anything to do with the specific Thawne and Damien Darhk villainy stuff. But I love what they did in this episode. We had some cool stuff with Ray, trying to figure out where he lands in the team now, being the cool guy, trying to be like Snart, but he can't be Snart because he's not. He has to be himself, but just different. So I'm excited to see where they take his stuff. I thought it was pretty funny, some of the things they did with him and Mick, but I enjoyed this episode for sure. I definitely want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I definitely want to know where you guys think things are headed now that Thawne has given Damien Darhk the ability to travel through time, because it's just going to be chaos. I don't know if they're going to do that, where it's like, yep, let's just rewrite all of Arrow and bring back a character that I would love to see come back, because that's like Sarah's whole thing, is that she wants revenge for her sister. Maybe now that she's said all this stuff, who knows? We might get Laurel back. I don't know, but we just have to wait and see it. But I definitely want to know your theories on what's going to change, where things are just headed in general. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.